Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. And today's guest is Nicole Powers, a highly respected business leader with over 2 decades of experience across global organizations. Nicole spent 19 years at L'Oreal, where she built an impressive career across senior leadership roles, developing high performing teams and driving growth in one of the world's most competitive industries. More recently, Nicole made a bold move, transitioning to BAT and stepping into a new chapter of leadership. In today's conversation, we'll be exploring about leadership, building high performing dream teams, and the lessons that she has learned along her career. So, Nicole, thank you so much for joining us. It's an honor to have you on the show.
No, thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. And every time I mention to the L'Oreal colleagues that I'll be getting Nicole on my show, they all were like, "Oh my god, that's such an incredible guest! I've really enjoyed working with her. She's built great teams." So I'm pretty sure our listeners are going to find it quite enriching and learned a lot about leadership. So thank you,
I hope so. I hope so.
definitely. So let's kick off. If you could give us a little more insights about your personal life and your corporate journey, so our listeners can get to know you a bit more.
Yeah, of course. So first and foremost, I am a mum to three children, which when you leave work, that is it's my biggest job, my hardest job. So sometimes work is like time off for me away from them. But no, they are 13, 11, and 5. So lots of fun, but very challenging. And then in terms of work, I have, like you said, built my career over the last kind of 20, 21 years now in supply chain. So starting at L'Oreal, and honestly, not really knowing what was going to come with that at all. Just thought L'Oreal, mascara, lipstick, great. That sounds interesting. And then ended up where I am today. So it's definitely not been a perfectly mapped scenario on a page of where I started and where I thought I would end up, but it's been absolutely amazing. I've had so many amazing opportunities coming from L'Oreal, coming from the people around me. And like you said, I'm now at BAT taking another risk, I would say, leaving L'Oreal and the comfort of there and trying something new. But it's really helped me in my leadership journey. Probably the last year has been one of the toughest in that. So no, that's where I am now.
Yeah, amazing. We'll deep dive into the BAT experience. But going back, did you always plan on a corporate leadership career, or this is something just came with the flow?
No, it came along as a bit of a surprise. So
Tell me more.
yeah, I think honestly, I always wanted to just do a really good job. I wanted to be recognized for being, doing a good job, being a team player, being able to solve problems. And that's really what I've thrived on for a long time in my career. And then I think I didn't notice, but there would be, interns or new people in the team and so even social events, so I would be the one organizing that or I would be the one mentoring them. And I really enjoyed it and I liked getting people together and teams together. I was leading projects at different times. So it was very much like indirect leadership. It wasn't obvious leadership at the beginning, but it was something I really enjoyed. And then when I went into my first big leadership role, it was after not managing anyone for maybe 3
Wow.
years. It was a big leap, um, but it was something I knew instantly I would enjoy. But it's taken a long time. That was 2019, and we're now 2026. So even now, like for me, leadership is always a journey. You're never going to be 100% comfortable with what you're doing. You can always improve, but yeah, so it wasn't a plan, but as it evolved, I really knew I enjoyed leading teams and people, and that's why I do what I do now, really.
Perfect. Now I'm excited to deep dive into your leadership and building a dream team. So let's start there now. So how would you describe your leadership style today?
So I think it's definitely been on a definitely different from when I started to now. So at first I wanted to keep everybody happy. I was like, I want everyone to like me. I want everyone to think that I'm a really good manager and a really good leader, and I want to get everything right. And unfortunately, that's not sustainable. Because one, it's not actually good for you because you take on quite a big emotional load. And I had someone in my team actually tell me once, they're like, you can't keep taking everyone's emotions on and all of their feelings and everything that's going on and taking that home. So that's a lesson that I've definitely learned over the time, is how can I give that level of empathy and support without it taking my emotions and kind of taking it out of me and me not being able to be there for everybody. So I think that's one thing I've really worked on. And that kind of comes as well with, I've had to make some really tough decisions throughout the time. I understand from a business point of view why we might need to make those decisions, but I'm the one there giving it to the team. And at the beginning, I found that very challenging because I was like, oh, I'm going to give these decisions and everyone's going to think it's my fault, or I'm not good enough because I can't push back. And whereas now it's really, for me, it's about understanding why decisions are taken, feeding that back to the team. Yes, of course, listening to people's feedback, and it can make a difference, but just having the confidence in myself that I can do that without it causing, everyone having bad feelings in the team. I actually think as a leader, if you can deliver bad news or a change well, it's a very good sign that you're leading your team and you're giving them the right level of support and empathy. Um, and the last part I would say is feedback, both ways. So not just feedback from me to the team, but for the team to feel confident that they can give me feedback as well and say, actually, when you did that, I wasn't comfortable, or I need you to do more of that. And that's definitely something I've developed over time because, again, before I was like, oh, that's too direct. Can I say this? What feedback should I give? Whereas actually, if I'm not giving my team the feedback, how are they going to know how to grow? How are they going to know how to develop? I'm kind of blocking them actually by not telling them, even if it's a tough message. And it's not always tough. Sometimes it's really nice messages, but you're not enabling your team to develop and grow, or yourself, if you're not willing to take that feedback or give that feedback. So for me, that's kind of leadership and dream team, is around having all of those elements.
Makes sense. And when the person came up to you and said, I think you're being a people pleasing manager, and that's a tough feedback, right, Nicole? So
Yeah.
how did you take that feedback personally then, and what did you do from there to really evolve into the leader you are today?
I think one thing, maybe I do it too much, but I think I'm quite good at self-reflecting, sometimes too much to my detriment, because then I overthink conversations that I had and really want to reenact them or redo them because I'm like, that wasn't good enough. But I think we can all be honest. When we get feedback, it doesn't always feel comfortable. But I think it's learning to listen, not have a response at that moment in time, digest it, and then think about how you can change. And in that situation, I was giving, all of my time to everybody at the beginning. So they'd a catch up. I'd be like, yeah, I'm available, I'm available, I'm available. But actually, it was taking time away from me doing my actual job. And it wasn't setting that person up for success because they just kept leaning back on me all of the time because I was kind of their comfort blanket. So it was kind of very slowly easing out of that kind of relationship into a new one where it was probably more coaching and mentoring rather than just there for support and quick calls to pick things up. So
Yeah, it makes sense. And then how has your leadership style evolved when you stepped into like a senior leadership role?
yeah, I think for me, there's a few things. I am really fair, I would say, and that's something that is like one of my core values. So I like to be fair and consistent. So if, for example, at L'Oreal, I had a team of up to like 40, 45, here I have a team of 60 plus. I want that whether they are reporting directly into me or two levels of reporting into me, to feel that they are being treated fairly and in the same way as everybody else. And I have that even more now because it's cross country. So, I have people in different locations, and I would really want them to feel that everything we do as a team and all the expectations that we have are fair. Whether that comes to, salary, which is a big, it's a big it's a big topic for people, and of course it is. And it should be. And that for me is fairness around salary, promotions, it's transparency as well. And I think I've really learnt that along the way is how do we make sure I can give you an example. And in L'Oreal, it very much used to be like go and have a coffee with somebody and they'd be like, "Oh, I've got this job coming up. How do you like the sound of that? Oh, I love the sound of that. Great. Oh, okay. That's your job." And I have had jobs that have come to me like that. And I very much am grateful for that. But I think we're in a totally different world now where actually that's not the fairest way to do it. So one thing in my leadership journey that I've done, whether I've been managing my team or whether I've been involved in a leadership team discussion is we need to be doing interviews. We need to be properly assessing people. And this comes back to the fairness and transparency piece, because if somebody doesn't get a role, but they've had an interview and you've given them feedback and they can then work on that to get the role next time, how much better is that than someone saying, "Oh, I didn't even know that role existed and now I don't even have a chance to go for it." It's so demotivating. And we know network is it's so important. BAT, L'Oreal, or anywhere, your network is important. So it's always a little bit down to who you know, and that makes things happen day to day. But you should be given the opportunity, regardless of who knows you and who you know, to interview fairly for a role that you believe you can do. So that's been one of my like big champion pieces, say, during my leadership journey.
I love that. Definitely a great core value to have. And just since you mentioned networking, so what would be like your top tips to network?
So this is in all honesty, something I still work on time because I'm not a big extrovert. I'm not someone who's out there all the time being like, "Let's go for a coffee." Um, so I tend to do it in a work way. Like, well, definitely when I joined BAT, inductions, a quick, "Can we go for a coffee? How are you? Who are you?" Like, not just at work, but outside of work. So I think, if you're not the most comfortable just directly approaching someone, I would say take the opportunity of doing like a quick 20-minute coffee catch up. And you don't always have to have a really big specific thing to talk about, but it's good to have a couple of subjects that you think that person, could help you with. Um, but informal is always quite good, I would say. And then as you build your network, use your network to meet other people. It's always good, if someone's at the coffee bar but they're standing with someone else, don't be afraid to go over and be like, "Oh, hi, how are you?" And they'll introduce you, and that's just one other person that you know. Because honestly, the way that you get things done at work is by people. Like that's the best thing. And that's my real challenge that I had at BAT is I didn't know anybody. So I was like, I don't
Yeah,
even know at L'Oreal. I was like, if I don't know, I definitely know who to ask. And that's how I can get things done and, fall in a favor here and because you can do something for someone else. But BAT, I was like, I know nobody. So that was really important for me to do that onboarding and those inductions. But informal, formal, just put yourself out there and who's going to say no to a coffee? They might be too busy today, but it's not because they don't want to meet you. So just brave, I would say. If it's not your comfortable place, just be brave.
yeah, I love that, and that's so true. Nobody has said no to me as well, and I think. I think Nicole, when you were at Trafford Park, I think I did meet you there, and I said we'd love to have a coffee catch up, and you did say yes, and you did. We did have a coffee catch up as well. So
Yeah.
thank you for that.
I might have moved it a couple of times. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
I'm not gonna deny that, but for
But we
sure.
did have it. Yeah, we did have it though. And since you've been at the senior level of leadership, so what leadership behaviors become increasingly important at a senior level? And I mean, like behaviors, not skills.
Yeah, I think I mentioned a few of them. For me, it's being fair and consistent. Like consistent definitely key. Like you can't imagine being in a room with your manager and today they want you to do A, B, C, and then tomorrow D and F is the most important thing. And then you go back and they're like, why didn't you do A, B, and C? So it's about not only setting priorities and being clear on what the action points are, but just being consistent in the way that you manage people and the way you ask for things as well. Because I think it then makes people comfortable with how they manage it or how you can manage them as well. Like I've seen it. I've had obviously two new managers now in BAT actually since I've been there. And there's a learning journey each time when you get a new leader to be like, right, how do they want me to be? And how do I want them to be? And how are we going to interact? So I think for me, that's like a key behavior is, thinking about how your team perceive you and how they want to work with you and consistent, like I said, be consistent with that. The other thing for sure, and I mentioned it, is around feedback. So again, as uncomfortable as it can be sometimes, direct feedback when needed is amazing for everybody. Even if that person's face is telling you they don't want to hear it, at some point they will want to hear it because I've had to deal with a few people that, I want to be promoted. I think I'm ready to be promoted. I've been in a really awkward position where I've come into a team and maybe 5 to 6 months in, and I've been like, "Actually, I'm not aligned to that." And one thing I think as a leader you need to be able to do is give that feedback on why, uh, but not just be like, "Oh, it's because of this, this, and this," and then, but this is why, and this is where I'm gonna help you, and these are the other people that I think we can help that can help you, or this is a project you can work on to show those skills. So it's not just feedback and it stops, but it's strong enough to give that feedback and then give the journey afterwards for that person because it's always going to be difficult for them, especially when you're a new manager. Oh, you're new to that team and they've had one person saying how amazing they are, and then you like, you are very, very good, but I think you could do all these things better. So for me, I think again, that's a behavior you need to have is that back and forth feedback. And I will always ask for that as well. Um, and then the other one, and I was really thinking about this, is around managing stakeholders. And we talk about that a lot. Okay. So great, I can manage stakeholders. I've done it for a long time. Difference when you're doing it at senior level is you're not just doing it for yourself, you're doing it for your team as well. So you represent your team with those stakeholders. And you are the one that's there to say, actually, my team did an amazing job there and they're working on this. And I think you should work with them on that. And it's giving them that level of like recognition and appreciation from the rest of the senior leaders. So it's not just about me going out and them all saying, oh, Nicole's great in ops, well done. It's about saying, no, actually, the whole of the ops Western Europe team are amazing. And I think that's a key part that you should play at a senior level to make sure that you're really putting your team in the right place for success.
I love that. What a great answer. I've got a few follow-up questions on just
Yeah.
that question. So you mentioned when you're having those one-to-ones to really understand what your employees or what your team members' style is so you can adapt to them. So in your one-to-ones, I mean, what questions do you ask them so you can get a bit of idea of how that person wants to be led?
Yeah. I think the key point there is one to ones. I have a one to one with my team every week, pretty much without fail. I really, really try because I think those moments are really important, actually. And I've had some people in my team, and I'm like, so when did you catch up with your team? A couple of weeks ago. And I'm like, absolutely. No, 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 no. We need a touch point. And I am always, it's funny, I've done a lot of these personality tests, and my thing is always, how are you? So how are you? How are you actually doing? I don't care what's going on, what the service level is. How are you actually doing today? And that's my own thing to that point. Um, and I think if you're building that relationship, it's not just like, tell me about this, what numbers are we on, who's done that, da da da. Da. I think then it gives you a much softer, more open and transparent relationship with your team. which then gives you the opportunity to have that level of feedback as well, or understand them a bit more, because I just think it's much easier then for them to feel more comfortable. And I also am, and my team will tell you this, I'm not one to put on like a poker face. Outside of the team, yes. But if I'm with my direct reports on my own, I'm quite happy to say it is a rubbish day, or how is everyone? No, it's not good. Like, and I think, or, even I said I'm a mum. I come in and I'm like, I've had a really tough time with the kids this morning. Like, they've been horrible, or actually I've had a really great time with the kids. Like, I think it's showing that you are a human being who is not perfect all the time, who is not managing to have 3 children and a really great career and nothing ever goes wrong, because it just doesn't give people the reality of what life is. And therefore, they don't feel like they can tell you when they're not having a good day or if they need extra support. So I think I would say I'm quite an open book, and generally that gives me a team, even if I have to work on it a little bit, because there's always some people that are a bit more closed than others. And even now, I know I have people in my team who won't talk to me fully about their weekend because they're like, yeah, it's all good. And then there'll be others that tell me everything, and that's totally fine. But it's just finding and understanding people. It's what it is. It's just people.
I love that. So basically leading by example, right? So if you show the vulnerability, if you share how
Yes.
you're feeling honestly, and I think that's what they reciprocate as well. Um, and I think that comes back to your feedback culture as well. You developing a feedback culture where you are open to get feedback, and they will be open to receive it as well. So that kind of creating it. Is that the way you create like a feedback culture within your
Yes, I
teams?
would say so, yes. My thing when I started working was always, we are a team. I'm not just here as your boss and to tell you what to do. That's not how this works, because that's nonsense. We are here as a team. We're gonna talk to each other about what's needed. We're gonna have some really good conversations about how to solve problems, and we're going to have a bit of fun along the way. And that's generally how I like to have the teams. So I very much see it as a teamwork rather than, me telling people what to do, which I think is a very old style of leadership. It's not collaborative. It's not very inspiring, from my point of view. So that's how I try.
Amazing. And you did mention that you're quite self-reflective. You take feedback. So when people, so what's the process of self-reflection? So do you like set up a meeting where you're just like thinking, okay, what went on throughout the day, what I could do better? Or it's like when you're commuting back from work, that's where you think. So what's your process like?
It's more on the commute or in bed at night. It's lots of in bed ones. Um, No, look, I actively ask for it, um, from my managers, from people around me. One piece of advice I'd give everyone is, if you've got a mid-year review or an end-of-year review coming up, ask people for their feedback, and don't be afraid to ask people who you think aren't gonna tell you that you're amazing. 'Cause we fall into that. We're like, "Oh, I know Sid really likes me, so I know we get on, so I'm gonna ask him for his feedback." Great, I know what you're gonna say, brilliant. But no, you should do a very well-rounded review of that, and I think people are very keen to be kind as well. You're not gonna, even if it's somebody that is not gonna give you, you're fantastic at everything, but actually that's brilliant, because then you've got something to work on and another perception of how you work. So look, I know, and I've said to my boss a couple of times, when you give me feedback, sometimes my face doesn't tell me that I'm happy about it, but I am. I want it. I want to have it. As long as I'm comfortable that it's fair and it's been done in the right way, then I can take time to reflect. But back to your question, it will always be on the commute or while I'm
Yeah,
lying in bed reflecting.
amazing. And Nicole, were you naturally always open to feedback, or this is something that you
Mm.
had to really work on?
No, I used to take it really personally, really, really personally. And I don't think it was about the feedback and the way it was given. I think it was just somebody was telling me that I hadn't done something well, or I could do better. And in my head, I was like, that means I've done a terrible, terrible job. I'm terrible. I'm terrible at this. And then it would just go in this spiraling kind of piece of like really feeling down. And interestingly, I think it was the Myers Briggs one where you get 4 letters. I did this a really long time ago. And then you come back with all of the everything that tells you what your personality's like. And one of them was, you take things too personally. And even then I was like, no, I don't take anything personally. I can take feedback. And this is another piece of advice I would give is ask people as well. Like if you get a piece of feedback from one person, it doesn't mean it's 100% right, because that is one person's piece of feedback. So you can say to someone, or someone said this to me, and what do you think? Do you see that? So I did ask a few people, and they were like, yeah, you definitely do take it quite personally. And, you can see it visually that you're not responding very well. So I was like, right, okay, there's some feedback again. So yeah, I think I just had to work on it, that they're not trying to hurt your feelings. They're not trying to in a bad way. They're actually trying to help you be better. And yes, it was a journey, but I feel like I'm in a much better place with that now. And like I said to you, I think it's about the delivery. It's about what people say. And I think as long as someone's doing it with constructively and kindly, then I think it's absolutely fine. And it's the only way that we're going to get better and grow, I think, if we have that.
Yeah, they say feedback is a gift, right?
Yes, yes, it is. I genuinely think that, and I didn't at the beginning, but I definitely do now.
Yeah, and I think there's a quote by the person who's written the Atomic Habits. I'm probably going to butcher it, but it was about that if you don't give feedback, you're choosing comfort over growth. And that's so true. Even as a leader, if you're not giving someone feedback, that means you're choosing a comfort zone rather than you both growing, having the difficult conversation as a leader, and then your team member really improving from that feedback.
Exactly. And believe me, I know it's uncomfortable. I know it. But if you don't do it, then it doesn't work out for anybody in the end. So, and the more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it.
Exactly. The more reps, like
It's like
same
a
thing.
muscle. You just have to
Yeah,
keep building that muscle and keep going with it, and you will get more comfortable with it. It might still not be your favorite thing to do, but you will be more.
100%. And now, after 19 years, right, at L'Oreal, where you
Yeah.
build this network and you're moving into BAT, like you said, where you didn't know anyone.
Yes.
So, and you've got and you've got a team as well, right, Nicole? And
Yes.
so, what did you focus on in your first 6 months to really build the trust with your team?
Yeah. I think for me, it was around really focusing on being visible to them, because like I said to you, there's 7 direct reports now. 2 of them are in the UK, but the rest are across Europe. So it's not like I can just pop down and be like, hi guys, how are you all? Which I would very naturally do. I sit with my team all the time in the UK. Um, so it was very much like I said to you, having the catch ups, having team meetings, and being like, right, guys, what's going on? And just, like listening to them, trying to understand the problems, but also trying to be quite humble to be like, I actually don't know what that means, what that is. And I did that a lot with BAT. And I think, you know, some people might be scared to do that because actually, oh, I've come in at this level and I'm managing all this team. How can I tell anyone I don't know what I'm doing, or I don't know what it is? But I didn't. And that for me is, if I was sitting there pretending I knew, I would feel more silly than saying, actually, I don't know what you're talking about. Can you please explain it to me a bit more? Um, and honestly, my team have been absolutely fantastic at that. They've been so patient with me, really explained things again and again if I needed them to. And I hope that's because I was so open and transparent with them that I'm like, I know what that is and I know what I'm good at, but I really don't know this area because it's brand new to me. So And that's again back to, how I try and build this culture of just being a human being, and that we're not born with the answers all the time. I'm still a year in and I hear an acronym and I'm like, "Oh, I have no idea what they're talking about." But again, I now know somebody that does know. So that's that's the good thing. Work is better. So yeah.
So great answer, Nicole. I like what you said in terms of visibility and being humble as a leader. And honestly, Nicole, so many of my podcast guests have said that leaders need to have humility. But according to you, right, why is it not common for leaders to have humility?
Oh God, it's such a good question. Look, I think I think times have changed quite a lot, but I think there was a way of being that maybe 10 years ago that you just had to be good at your job. So if you were amazing at your technical job and you got everything done, regardless of whether you did it with the right behaviors or not, you were promoted. Well done, you delivered that new launch. Well done, you got all your KPIs done. Didn't care whether someone was crying because you told them off or half your team left. Nobody used to look at that, really, like, if we're being really honest. And I think that's changed over time, and people are being promoted more and more on their technical and their behavioral capability or their leadership capabilities. And you've seen at L'Oreal, and like, I know at L'Oreal and at BAT, you have leadership capabilities, and it's very much around now, how do you lead a team? Not can you go into SAP and place an order? No, we don't necessarily need you to be able to do that. We need you to be able to build a strategy and a team, and have the right behaviors in place. So I think there's probably still people that are in roles that got there based truly on their ability, and they're now on their own leadership journey, I would expect, because that's now is what is expected from people and from companies, that you have those capabilities. Um, and it doesn't come naturally to everybody. You know, there are people that are so good at their jobs and then they manage a team and they're like, "Oh no, I don't want to do this because actually it's too much admin and I like just doing the technical side." So, but then there are other people that maybe it doesn't come naturally, but they do all the training and they're really trying with it. So I think, and they're the people that need the feedback as well. So again, whether they're giving that kind of vibe to their team that they can give the feedback, but I would hope that more and more those people can, yeah, have a bit more humility. But I would say it's a bit of a historical thing with the way that people got into leadership roles.
That's so interesting because I had one of my podcast guests who said leaders often just focused on business and technical skills, and the emotional intelligent part, which is like the EQ, which is
Yeah. Yeah.
considered as soft skill, which is never focused on. So that's why they kind of struggle on
Yeah.
these parts that you mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that person could be, absolutely brilliant on the technical side, much better than maybe someone who's a great leader. And that's where you need to make decisions at different times about what kind of people you need in the team. But ultimately, if you're leading a big team, I would hope that the leadership capabilities are quite high on the priority list.
Yep, definitely. Nicole,
Yeah.
so how can leaders create a dream team?
So I think the biggest thing for me is that you need diversity in a team. So I have been so lucky to work at L'Oreal and BAT that are full of people from all over the world, all different backgrounds, like whether it be their kind of home background, their educational background, like it's been amazing for me. And I've learned so much from those people. And I constantly feel like I'm surrounded by really, really clever people. Um, but that's because of the diversity as well. So you get not just people coming with different types of education, but different experiences that they bring to you and different ways of solving a problem. And I think for me, that is what really makes a team stand out, is when you've got that diversity. And I'm not talking just male, female here. I'm talking all spectrums of diversity for me are super key. Um, because ideally you want to have people around you who challenge you. Like I don't want my team to say yes every time I ask them to do something, or every time I make a suggestion, they go, "Oh, that's a great suggestion. Well done." I want to say, actually, no, like we did it like this and it was better. And I'm like, "Oh, great. How can we put that across the rest of the team? How can I learn from that?" So it's bringing that dream team is diversity, different. I know diversity is different, but really different people that bring different things. So we talked about it a minute ago. I might have a project in my team actually need someone quite technical for that. But they might not be a leader, and that's totally fine, but they might be part of the leadership team. And actually I've had this example where I had quite a very, very strong team. One person I would say was quite technical. One person's emotional intelligence was brilliant and also quite technical. And then I had someone in the middle who was like a bit of both. Um, and at the beginning, it wasn't the best dynamic because, the person who was quite technical was like, I just want to focus on the business side. And the person that was like, had the emotional intelligence, wanted to know what everybody did at the weekend and like what evolved. But actually, like, it really brought out then the best in each person. And then the person that was quite technical became more emotionally intelligent because they were so exposed to this person. And that's why I think if you've had a whole team of technical people, you're going to really miss on the kind of relationships and fun and let's go and do this. But if you have somebody who's constantly asking you about what you did at the weekend, you're not necessarily going to have, you know, or the technical side or the challenge of we do it like this, but what about that? So for me, it's that diversity of people is what makes a team amazing. Yeah, and like I said before, all the regular check-ins, bring your team together, make them enjoy each other, even if it doesn't feel like they will at the beginning, because connection really, really matters. And one thing I put actually as a note on this one is it's not just about the leadership team, it's about the whole team. So the community of the team. And one thing that was done at L'Oreal, and Heike did it very well, was one operations. And I think Sid, you've been there through that. Like a team of leaders, yes, we can think about what the strategy is, but we can deliver it and we can tell the teams what to do. But how much better would it be if the teams give their feedback and they drive the change and they set the priorities as well? And you have this bottom up and top down way of working so that when everyone says we achieved this and we did this transformation, we actually all did do it together rather than, oh, well, the boss said we should do this, so we did it. Oh, great. Because that's not how to take people on a journey, and that's not how you develop them either. So for me, that's part of being a dream team, is making sure everybody feels that they're in that community and they have a good part to play in driving it forward.
Um, and in contrast, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever been part of a poorly led team, and what lessons did that experience teach you?
Yeah. Yes. I would say, I don't want to say necessarily a poorly led team. I would say I've seen definitely some behaviors over time um, that I have struggled with. And when I say struggled with, it's because my values are so strong in this that when it doesn't happen, I find it really difficult to manage. And that's something that I'm still working on as well, to find the right way to manage that without getting too frustrated or too emotional about it. So it's things, it's where I feel people are not able to make mistakes or say, I don't know. I think it really breeds a culture of, okay, well, I'm not actually going to tell you then that went wrong. I'm going to hide it, or I'm going to mask that. Um, And it then creates this barrier of like, oh God, don't tell Nicole that because she's going to be really cross. So we'll find another way to do it over here. And then that's not necessarily the right way to do it. But you've got a team of people that are too afraid to really share what the problem is. So you're not, as a leader, you don't actually then know what's going on. So you don't really know what you're leading because everyone's hiding the real news from you. You're therefore not able to know and therefore help, support, guide, change. And you've got all of these people that are not innovative anymore and they're not empowered because they feel like if they say or do anything wrong, well, I'm going to lose my job. I'm not going to get that promotion. And it's a very, this feeling of not being able to be open and transparent has so many layers down. And ultimately, I would argue that as a leader, you probably are missing out the most because you're not doing the job that you were set to do because your team are not there with you. They're not in your boat. They're not on your journey. They are somewhere else hoping that you get replaced soon, I would say. So that's one behavior that I definitely have seen over time. And I think it's why it's a really important question, when you come to yearly like pulse reviews, are you afraid? Like I really liked that one in my team. Do you feel able to make a mistake as long as you learn from it? And I would say most of the time we were above 90-95%. And I was like, great, who are those other 5% who don't feel like they are? Because it really trickles down into quite awful behaviors and awful feelings throughout the full team.
That's so powerful, Nicole. Definitely. And that comes back again to emotional intelligence, taking feedback from your people.
Yeah. And everyone wants to be safe at work. Like we're going to work like to have a nice time and to learn, but ultimately to, support our lifestyle and enjoy our lives. So it shouldn't be a place that you go to and it makes you feel bad or sad or any of those things.
Yeah. And again comes up to the leader leading their team properly, right? With the right behaviors. So
Yeah.
top
But
down always.
yeah, I know, but I do think like we're not always going to be giving great messages and people aren't always going to be leaving those meetings, feeling amazing. But it's how you deliver it and how you take people on a change or a transformation journey. That's the most important thing. Even if someone's being made redundant, which, is not a nice process to go through, what I would hope at the end is they say, okay, that happened. I'm happy with how the process was managed. I understand it. And I think I got the best outcome from it. That's the best you can do as a leader in those kind of situations, I think.
Mhm. And like being a people leader as well, right? And they say at L'Oreal or it's general, the change curve, we start with like denial, sad, and acceptance, and then finally you reach. So it's
Yes.
pretty much as a
Yeah.
leader, you take your employee or your team through that phase together.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. I always call it getting people on your boat. And one of my old managers used to say that to me. So when I was project managing, she was like, how would you get the people that don't want to do this project to do it with you? Because we all know projects come along and people get asked to do it on top of their extra work. And that's my thing. I'm like, how do I get people to go with me? How do I convince them that this transformation or this strategy that we're going to do is the right thing to do? And how do we bring everyone together? And I think that's, as a leader, one of the best things you can do is do it as a team.
I love that. And since we're on the topic of team, so if you were building a team from scratch, so what
Yeah.
values or will be like non-negotiable for you, Nicole?
Okay. So I think trust is the first one. And that's not an overnight thing. Like, that's something that builds. But you have to have trust in each other that when, you're challenging each other, back to my point, you want people to be empowered, you want people to bring their ideas. So, when you have that trust, people can challenge each other quite openly. And you can then really dig out really great ways of working, really great solutions, rather than having someone sat in the corner saying, "Oh, I want to say this, I'm not really sure." Um, so I think for me, teams like that have that trust really breed great ideas and innovation. They push really hard together because they trust each other. They know they've got each other's backs. Then you celebrate together when you've done something well, and that real feeling of achievement together, I think, is what really brings people together. And for me, that's been really key. And how do you celebrate people and how do you recognize people as well? So one thing that one of my team members is famous for in L'Oreal is shout outs. So once a month, everyone in a list, yeah, of who they want to shout out and why. And that is like a great recognition point as well. So I think, having that feeling of like fun but recognition as well. And one thing, I think we had it in PPD, but it was tough on problems, kind on people. And that would be
I
kind of
like
the
that.
mantra for the, yeah. So yes, we can be tough, we can be direct, but on the problem, and then we're very kind to our people and we do it together. It's again that environment. It's it's the diversity again, but it's building the environment for those people to thrive in as well.
Such a powerful answer, Nicole. And in terms of like this all um boils down to being a great manager, being a great leader, right? So according to you, what skills make someone a great leader?
Oof. Okay. I would say all the things I've said already, like openness, transparency. I think that is needed, but the clarity of the direction that you want to go to. So clarity of direction and priorities, a bit like I said before, like trying to be consistent and not going back and forth with your team. Like, this is what we're going to achieve. This is how we're going to achieve it. And yes, we have to be agile. We know it changes a bit. And, but ultimately, where are we trying to go to? What are we trying to do together? So I think having that clarity, communicating it, and then keep doing that. Just because you said your strategy once in January at the start of the year and it's all shiny, don't expect the team to remember it. Like, use that as now your kind of North Star, in catch ups, in check ins, etc., to know that you're all on the same path. Strong communication. We talked about feedback. We talked about um, all of those things about having that one to one with your team, etc. So make sure you have those communication points. I would always say care, emotional intelligence, like have some team, they're people, people have a lot going on outside of work. So, really care for people. Um, and I think accountability for sure. Like, you need to be accountable for your team, for what you're doing, for having those tough conversations that we talked about, whether that be in the team with external stakeholders. Like, it's not easy to be a manager. Had a lot of people before say to me, "Oh, I just want to manage a team." And I'm like, "Tell me why. What do you think managing a team is?" And it's not to be mean to them. It's just like, okay, what do you think you're going to get out of this? And what do you think it means? Because actually, perception and reality on being a manager of a team are very, very different things sometimes. Um, so yeah, I think they're for me the main ones. Being able to bring people together is a key skill, and having fun along the way. We're here together for however many hours a week. So how do we have some fun and have those touch moments as well to make sure that people are happy, safe, and able to flourish really.
I love that. And again, a follow-up question in terms of in contrast, right? So
Mhm.
what's the biggest mistake leaders make when building teams?
It goes back to my point a little bit earlier. Like, if I built a team of me, just me, there's five of me, they were all the same. It's not going to be. It might be very comfortable. I might be like, oh, I get on with their well with them, but we're not really going to be a dynamic team. We're not going to be making big changes because it's never going to feel uncomfortable. And I think, that's the thing. Sometimes we need to feel a bit uncomfortable with each other. We need to be able to challenge each other in that trusting environment. So I would say don't always go for the people that are the same as you. Plus, think about what you need in your team at different times. So if I give you an example, if you take demand and supply planning, I might need a new manager for that team. The obvious answer is to get someone who's done demand and supply planning for the last 10 years and they know it inside out. Obvious, easy peasy. But actually, what I've got in my team is, I don't know, you could say 3 women who are all very, one's very emotionally intelligent, so is the other one. And, they bring a lot around HR and a lot of people. But actually, I probably would be great to have a guy and somebody that brings, a different dynamic to the team, who is more challenging to the team, and that kind of nicey dynamic. So I might not bring the guy or the woman that's got the most technical abilities. I might bring somebody that adds another part of my leadership goals to my team, and who doesn't know anything about demand and supply planning, but I know I've got a super strong demand and supply planning team. And that person has proven before that they can learn very quickly and they're very willing to learn. But if I was in the situation where I had a new demand and supply planning team and they weren't so strong, then I probably would need someone who's a bit more technical, and I might have to take that over the leadership side, but make sure they've still got the right skill set. They might not be fully additive to the leadership team, but they can bring something a bit different. So I think it just depends on timing, depends on candidates, but I think you've got to be open to not just technical skills, but leadership skills, and what do you need at that time?
I love that answer because, just filling the role just for the sake of filling it, you're seeing, okay, what my team's capabilities are, where my teams are in the level of expertise in the supply chain or supply planning or demand planning, and then you fit that person according to that.
Can be tough sometimes because, people come in with the full skill set and they're like, I don't know why I didn't get this job. And that's
Yeah,
why interviews are so important, because then you can say, actually, I was looking for this. Um, and this is what I went for in the end because this person showed more of this style or that skill. Which kind of goes back to my interview point as well. I think it's very important that you have a consistent lot of questions that cover both technical and leadership capability, and you have a scoring system. Yes, it sounds probably a bit laborious to do it like that, but it's so fair and it makes it so much easier for you to make a decision and give the feedback as well. And it's so
yeah,
much easier for that person to understand why they were or were not successful. So,
yeah, definitely. And you also mentioned when we were having a pre-chat, right? What mistakes that leaders make when building teams is that they don't hire people which are smarter than them. So
yes.
would you like to elaborate on that as well?
Yes. Like I said, I think I've been very lucky at L'Oreal to work and VAT with super smart people with great experiences. And I would say 9 times out of 10, I feel like I'm hiring people that are smarter than me, more experienced than me, etc. And I think some people have a feeling of, oh, I don't want to do that because they're going to outshine me, or, that's they're smarter than me, so I won't know how to manage them. And I think, of course, they're very natural feelings to have. But for me, it's counterintuitive. If you have a fantastic team of people who are super smart, super experienced, great leaders, they are only going to be better for you. One, because they'll be like, what an amazing team. But two, you're going to learn from them as well, and you're going to develop, and you'll be just as good as them in different areas eventually, because you're going to have that two-way kind of coaching coming as well. So I think you have to have the growth mindset and therefore put those super great people in your team. And your job is still there to lead them because there's definitely, if you're in the role that you're in, you can absolutely offer them something 100%. There's gonna be things that they haven't developed yet, but that you have, and it's that sharing and the growing, but I just would never be afraid to be like, "Oh, that person knows more than me or is smarter than me, so I'm not gonna put them there." I just yeah, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, that's more like a ego issue, right? Like we discussed. So final question. So how do you keep your ego in check then, Nicole?
I love we had this in the pre-chat as well. Oh gosh, I said this to you. I think if I said I don't have an ego, it makes me sound like I do have an ego. Mm. One funny thing that's been at VAT is that they call me boss. Oh, hi boss. How are you doing, boss? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, it's so different to me. I don't think anyone at L'Oreal ever called me boss. So I take that definitely with a pinch of salt. Yeah, I think I don't have to struggle to keep my ego in check. I would say sometimes I could be better at having a bit more of an ego and throwing myself out there a little bit more for the team, if I'm being really honest. Like, I think supply chain profiles are normally a bit more introverted, a little bit more quieter. I definitely only really say things when I've got something to say. I'm not going to be the one at the table going, oh, no, I've done this and I know that. But I think sometimes from my team's point of view, I could probably have a bit more of that ego and a bit more like, no, supply chain are doing a great job. Respect us. You know, we need to work like this. And that's something that I still continue to work on because anyone that's done any of the kind of profiles of a leadership team, I can tell you normally the ops people and their profiles are in the minority of like when you've got a commercial or a marketing or, you know, that finance and supply chain are usually quite similar. But so I think it would be better if I had more of an ego. Um, I don't know if that's the answer that you're looking for, but yeah,
Yeah, that was super clear. And as you mentioned in the previous answer as well on how leaders should be when they are building the teams, when you're hiring. So it was amazing. So I think this is a wrap, Nicole. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking to you. And I'm definitely sure that listeners found it quite interesting and they've learned a lot of leadership insights from you. So thank you once again.
no, thank you. Thank you, Sid. Great podcast. So thank you for that. Really
Thank
appreciate it.
you. Thank you so much. And I'll link Nicole's LinkedIn in the description as well. And make sure you comment below what's your biggest key takeaway from this episode. And thank you to our listeners as well.